Well, I broke the news to Mary right before this service that the 3 p.m. kind of got the fun sermon, and y'all do not get the fun sermon. I'm sorry. But I gave away my props, you see. I had props, and then I gave them away to the kids. So, it didn't have the same effect. I thought about doing it, but it doesn't have the same effect. And besides, it sort of defeats my whole purpose of what I want to tell you this evening. And maybe not even what I want to tell you, what I don't want to tell you. What I don't plan to do this evening. And I don't plan to really explain to you what Christmas is. I know that's maybe what you were expecting to come to church for, right? To have some explanation about what Christmas means, or what it means, should mean to us, or what it means to us in this day and this age. And I suppose I could do that. But the thing is, what struck me this year, and we have the same Christmas story every single year, and besides just the feeling of what else is there to be said? I couldn't help but notice this year as I read the Christmas story again, what was missing. And that is, despite the fact that we all gather here in churches on Christmas Eve all around the world to hear Christmas Eve sermons, and pastors in particular feel like the only reason you've come is to hear us talk, which I know is not true. You've come for the music and communion and to take pictures in front of the Christmas tree because your kids are dressed up, right? This is what it's for. So I know that really I am not the center of your Christmas celebration. But besides all of that, the first Christmas doesn't have a sermon. The first Christmas doesn't have a long, drawn-out explanation of what any of these signs or what this child means. It's all a little vague, really. The shepherds get a glorious image. They get an experience of God. They get an experience of glory. They're told, go touch, go see this child, this sign that is given to you. It will be a Savior. But I'm sure the shepherds had a few additional questions, like, what does that mean? But they neither asked it, nor were they given the explanation. And most beautifully of all is that here the shepherds show up after Mary has given birth, which, women who have given birth here, all right, imagine a bunch of shepherds breaking in on you to come see your child. And you might be wondering, why is this happening to me, right? This is not an everyday occurrence. And all of the things, all of the signs, all of the messages that Mary has been given, again, with not a whole lot of explanation, not a whole lot of fine print, not a whole lot of diagramming, not a whole lot of consequences, just this thing is happening. And Mary's posture, I think, is this true Christmas posture. It says that she just pondered them in her heart. Not only the signs, not only all of the glory that she had seen, not only these shepherds that have intruded on her, but I can't help but imagine also all of the questions that she had. And yet the first Christmas does not have a textbook or a sermon. And so it's not just because this is my easy way out of giving you a sermon. It is because I want to take my cue from this first Christmas and not just give you some overly explained sermon about what Christmas should be. I want to invite us instead into a Christmas season where we are able to have this posture like Mary, that is able to just absorb what this night is for you. That God is in your midst. And I think this is good news for us as Christians. It's not that our questions and our doubts and our curiosities about God, about our journey of faith, about the church, about who Jesus is and what Jesus means to us, all of those are great questions. Questions not to be dismissed in this life of faith. Questions that I hope you have spaces to explore. Questions that I think the very purpose of the church is meant for. That you have a church community that is here to journey with you on all of the questions and the doubts and the curiosities and the pains and the worries of faith. But Christmas is not that time. To have one moment out of the year where we don't have to worry so much with getting all of the answers right, or having everything figured out and explained away. There's time for that. There is time for that. There is time for that in Jesus' ministry, right? But it's not as a child. It is only until he is an adult that he then begins revealing to his disciples and to those around Galilee what this sign that the shepherds heard 30 years ago when he was a baby, what this was all about. But Christmas is not the time that Jesus gives sermons or shows miracles or explains. And I think that's really helpful for us as Christians. No matter if you're someone that you feel like you've got it figured out, which if you do, come talk to me, because I would like to meet you. I've yet to meet someone who has it all figured out. And I think that's the point, right? Is that for those of us that maybe feel like we don't have it figured out, like this whole faith thing, this whole Jesus thing, you're just not sure about. Or you're not quite sure how it's supposed to, how's all this work? Right? What does this even mean that Jesus is born as a baby? Isn't that a little strange? Why would God be a human? These are all great questions, and questions that even the good Christians who don't want to admit it have all wrestled with. And so Christmas is the great equalizer in the community of faith. That if you have questions about who Jesus is, what the life of faith is, does God care? That tonight is the night that you can put those aside, not because they're unimportant, because there's something else that comes first before answering your questions. And that we're all in this boat. We are all invited into this Christmas of putting our questions aside so that we can see what comes first in the Christmas story, which is wonder, awe, pondering those experiences of God, pondering what this Christmas means to you, what it feels like, holding in your heart that joy and that warm, fuzzy feeling. And even if you don't quite have God all figured out, being assured that the fact that you are even asking the question means that, like the shepherds, you have sort of been prodded by the glory of God some point in your life. And that your job is not now to catch up to the rest of you, the Christians that you think know it all. Because we don't. But it is like Mary to just ponder it in your heart and allow it to be a gift for you this Christmas. You will see, there's sort of an irony in what I'm saying, in that I'm going to stop talking, we're going to sing a song, and then we're going to recite a creed. Which, what is a creed but an explanation of all the things I said we're not going to explain tonight. But I want you to see that. It's not that the questions and the explanations are not unimportant, but even our ancient creeds and the ancient faith of our church comes along throughout history. It takes some time, quite a lot of time, like several hundred years of time, for the first Christians to just simply be in wonder and ponder what this Jesus fellow in their encounter of him really meant, before they could ever start putting it down into the words that we are privileged to say. So there is a sequencing in this life of faith. And it doesn't begin with certainty. It begins with wonder. And those things don't counteract one another. They work together in this life of faith. And that's good news for all of us. For the lifelong Christians who maybe have gotten stuck in the rut, this is the moment to open yourself up to the wonder of God. And for those of us that feel like we're being left behind, and we got to catch up. Not tonight. First of all, you never have to catch up. But secondly, not tonight. And I think this happens. I think this has some implications for us in our lives of faith. One, in our relationship with God and in our relationship with others. The first is that this thing that I've been telling you that I'm just going to hammer in one last time and then I'll stop. Is that in your relationship with God, I just want you to hear this really clearly. Coming from this posture of Mary, who is pondering questions in her heart, that doubt and questions are not weakness of faith. They are the seedbed of faith. The second thing is, how does this change how we relate to one another? Is that we like to have other people explained, or maybe explain ourselves. And Christmas, I am not unaware of the fact that Christmas brings people together who are not always together the rest of the year. And there's maybe a temptation sometimes, and maybe this is applying to you tonight, and maybe it's not, and that's okay. Take what you need and leave what you don't. Is that you might be getting together with people that you have had miscommunications with, or broken down relationships, or fighting with, or you just don't understand that person. And maybe you're thinking, oh, Christmas is the best time for us to hash this out. Let me explain my side of the story, and let me get right what's going on with her, right? I would say there's always time for that in relationship. My pastoral word of advice to you, not tonight. Not tonight, right? Enjoy this gift of wonder that even when you don't understand one another, to just keep it in your heart and let this night, let this holiday be a moment of enjoying one another's presence and pondering some of the things about other people in your hearts until it is time for explanation. But Christmas, I just don't think it's the time for it. So just know this, that there will come times for sermons and teaching and creeds and explanations, and you will gain insight about yourself, about others, and about God. That is a part of the life of faith and growth. But tonight doesn't need to be about growth. We celebrate Christmas in the wintertime, where there is growth going out in the world, but it is unseen. It is buried beneath the ground as roots grow deeper and deeper and deeper. That's what wonder is. So welcome to this Christmas reprieve from having it all explained. Enjoy a night of wonders. Amen.